Many centuries ago, in the lands of Egypt, ruled the cruel Pharaoh Amenhem. His reign was marked by bloody sacrifices and countless wars. His army struck fear into neighboring kingdoms, and his subjects were too afraid even to speak his name. Amenhem demanded absolute loyalty from those around him, and any sign of defiance was punished with torture. When he died, he was buried in a luxurious tomb filled with gold and treasures. It was believed that the tomb had been built using magical rituals, and the pharaoh's curse protected it from intruders. But ancient texts hinted that the tomb concealed more than just treasures. Priests claimed that Amenhem's soul was trapped inside the sarcophagus to prevent his return to this world. There were rumors that on certain nights, the moon painted the desert in a crimson glow, and sounds resembling moans echoed from the depths of the tomb. Yet the lure of riches always attracted those willing to risk everything in search of the legendary treasure. However, as the legend went, none of them ever returned. Chapter 1. The Call. Two brothers, Nathan and Leo Lyons, gathered in a small apartment in Cairo. The room was filled with equipment, maps, and old books, smelling of dust and coffee. Ancient drawings, faded photographs of excavations, and quotes from forgotten manuscripts adorned the walls. "I found a map," Nathan began, the older and more experienced of the brothers. His eyes sparkled with excitement, despite the exhaustion from months of searching. "This map leads to Amenhem's tomb. We could be the first to find it and return alive." Leo froze for a moment, filming the scene with his camera. He hoped to create a documentary about their expedition. A storyline was already forming in his mind. Brothers on an adventure, the mysteries of ancient Egypt, myths and reality. What if there's really something there? It could be more than just a story about a curse. It could be an opportunity to uncover the secrets of antiquity, he said thoughtfully, flipping through the yellowed pages of a book with an ancient symbol resembling an eye. Nathan pulled out the map, yellowed with age. A point in the middle of the desert was marked, surrounded by enigmatic symbols neither of them could fully decipher. The decision was made. They would set out for the tomb at dawn. Chapter 2. Journey into the Desert. The journey began early in the morning. They rented a jeep and drove through the endless sands. The heat was unbearable, the sun scorched their skin, and the air shimmered with heat. Each brother felt a mix of excitement and fear. Leo filmed the landscapes, occasionally pointing the camera at Nathan. His younger brother, usually a skeptic, now seemed absorbed by the idea of uncovering the tomb's secrets. Every time Leo looked through the lens, it seemed as if strange shapes flickered in the distance, like figures or movements on the horizon. These symbols on the map? They look more like warnings than directions, Leo muttered, studying the map. "Allow me to suggest something else," Archer said. He turned again to the map. "Or a test," Nathan replied, checking their equipment. His voice was confident, though he also felt a strange tension. With every passing hour, they ventured deeper into the desert, and it seemed the sands themselves began to change color, becoming more reddish. By the time they reached the suspected location, the sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky bathed in crimson hues. Before them rose a massive dune, with partially ruined columns peeking out. An eerie silence surrounded them, broken only by the sound of the wind. The outline of the tomb was hidden under a layer of sand, but the outline of an arch was discernible. "There it is," Nathan whispered, barely able to contain his excitement. Leo switched on his flashlight and noticed strange footprints in the sand, leading into the void. Chapter 3. First Steps. They entered the tomb, their flashlights illuminating the ancient walls. The air was heavy, filling their lungs with a sense of time frozen in stone. The walls were adorned with carvings, covered in centuries of dust. Many depicted scenes of torture and rituals. One image stood out. a figure with a mutilated face, kneeling before a massive shadow. The corpse's bright eyes were staring madly at the camera. "This isn't just decoration," Nathan said, closely examining one of the carvings. "These are stories. They're trying to tell us something. We should understand that these simple bits of clay are essences." "Or warn us," Leo muttered, pointing his camera at the wall. At that moment, his camera hissed, as if the battery was draining faster than it should. A distant whisper echoed from deeper within the corridor, making them freeze. It was a barely audible sound, like words spoken in an ancient language. A breeze passed through the corridor, but its source was unclear. "Did you hear that?" Leo whispered. Nathan nodded but decided to press on. They knew there was no turning back. Ahead lay answers, or dangers, they couldn't foresee. Chapter 4. The Depths of the Tomb. The corridors grew narrower, the walls covered in strange symbols that seemed not to have been carved by human hands. They glowed faintly, their light vanishing as the flashlights approached. Nathan noticed that the symbols changed shape, as if responding to their presence. The feeling of otherness didn't leave them. Suddenly, Leo stopped, his face pale. "Look," he pointed at the ground. Scattered there were fragments of bones and pieces of equipment. These were the remnants of previous explorers. One of the bones bore deep scratches, as if something had clawed it from the inside. Among the debris were broken lamps and charred pages from a journal. Nathan picked up one of the pages and read aloud. "They made it this far," Leo said, his voice trembling. "But where did they go?" Suddenly, the light from their flashlights began to flicker. The shadows they cast started moving, seemingly on their own. Distant screams echoed, sounding like someone's desperate cries for help. The noise was both a human wail and a beastly growl. "We're not alone here," Nathan said, pulling a knife from his pocket. His hand shook slightly. Every sound echoed, and it felt as though the tomb itself was watching them. Chapter 5. The Sarcophagus Chamber. They reached a massive chamber lit by an eerie green glow. At its center stood a sarcophagus, surrounded by stone figures. These statues depicted priests in ritualistic poses, but their faces were unnervingly lifelike, as if something within them was alive. The statues' eyes seemed to follow their every move. The chamber floor was adorned with intricate geometric patterns that sparkled as if carved from an otherworldly metal. When Leo stepped inside, one of the patterns began to glow, and the statues shifted slightly. "These aren't statues," Leo whispered. "They're people, turned to stone." "Ah! Ah!" Chapter 6. The Curse Awakens. The green glow around the sarcophagus grew brighter, flooding the chamber with an otherworldly light. The shadows on the walls moved faster, taking on grotesque, almost humanoid shapes. It was as if the tomb itself was playing on their fears. "We need to get out of here," Leo shouted, but his voice was drowned out by a deafening hum. The walls began to tremble, and the floor beneath them felt unstable, as though every moment brought them closer to disaster. Guided by instinct, Nathan examined the inscriptions on the sarcophagus. "It says, 'The soul of the curse guards eternity,'" he shouted. "We've broken the seal." At that moment, the lid of the sarcophagus began to lift, slowly. From within came a deep, inhuman moan that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. As the lid opened fully, a figure rose from within. It was more than a mummy, a towering figure radiating a sinister green light. "You have awakened me, and now your souls are mine," it boomed, in a voice that reverberated through the chamber. Its expression was like a deliberate. The shadows closed in around the brothers, transforming into nightmarish forms. Nathan, realizing they had little time, grabbed Leo's hand and ran toward the exit. but the way out was blocked, and the darkness began to consume them. When calm cleared, they saw Allie, sitting on the floor, asleep. "Leo, keep filming, let someone know the truth," Nathan shouted. At dawn, weeks later, a Bedouin caravan stumbled upon their abandoned jeep in the desert. Near it, they found Leo's camera. The brothers were nowhere to be found. The footage on the camera showed distorted images and fragments of their journey. In one of the last scenes, Nathan was seen emerging from the tomb, carrying an unconscious Leo in his arms. Now back in Cairo, Nathan lives haunted by the shadows of his past. His eyes reflect pain, and each night he hears the whispers of the curse. The Pharaoh's tomb once again disappeared beneath the sands, its secrets left untouched.